Hi, my name is Isabelle Lambert.
And I'm Eugenia Oganova.
We are a company called Energy Pulse.
And right now we're going to be talking about the victim mode.
The energy of the projection of authority is what we mean when we say victim mode. It has a lot to do with the idea, the feeling that things just happen to me or that I don't matter. These are the main factors that take us into the energy of victim. When we experience ourselves as a victim, we shrink. And as we shrink, we force ourselves out, we force the smallness of self out into a projection of authority outside of us, and the projection of authority outside of us comes back and hits us like a sledgehammer almost. It makes us feel like we don't matter and things happen to us, the main two patterns of victim mode, because the projection of the outer authority replaces the inner sense of self.
Yeah, so you might wonder why this victim mode happens in the first place. Why would anybody want to be a victim? Well, there are certain reasons for it which are probably not as conscious, but they are there, which is why we tend to go into the victim mode. And one of those reasons is that in order to not be a victim, we have to have a self. And that inner self has a sense of inner authority and inner responsibility. And if we don't like the authority and responsibility that comes with being a self, then we push that self with the authority and responsibility out of ourself, out of our own system to the outside world. We project it outwards. So then it seems like somebody else becomes responsible for us and somebody else becomes an authority over us. So instead of us being our own decision maker, we are now at the mercy of some sort of an external authority. May that be another person or circumstances or life or even our own soul, but it's a concept of projecting that inner self to something outside of ourselves. When we don't want that responsibility and the authority because it seems too difficult to us to handle, we push it out and become a victim.
This all begins because of a lack of a self, the lack of the sense of self. We don't feel like we're enough. And what we do is we then fantasize a perfect ideal, us as a perfect person. And then we project that fantasy out into our reality, and we can never measure up. We can never be as good as our fantasy of ourselves. So what happens is then we don't like the self that we are. And because we don't like that self, we keep squishing it, and the more that we squish it, the more that this projection of authority outside of us raises itself like a big, huge super fantasy of something that has power over us. So if we go back to the beginning of not enoughness of a self idea, we go back into letting ourselves be enough no matter what we're experiencing, then that takes the fantasy apart and that lets us build this truer sense of self and take the outer projection of authority down.
Yeah, this is definitely true. Another component here is that being able to recognize where we are in the victim mode. When we in that mode and we don't know that we're being a victim, we end up trapped. So falling off being a balanced self into the victim mode is part of learning. But not knowing that we have fallen off, that's when we get stuck, and then we're not learning anything anymore. We're now experiencing the pain and entrapment and everything else that goes with being a victim, but there is no solution. We're just stuck in that mode. So how can we recognize that we are in the victim mode? Well, one of the main things is we feel powerless. In that mode, we feel like we don't know what to do, we can't do anything, efforts don't matter, no matter what we do and how much we apply ourselves, it just won't make any difference, so we just give up and it doesn't matter anymore. We feel very small and feels like somebody else knows about us better than we know about ourselves, or somebody else can do something better than we can do about ourselves, or even deeper in that somebody is better than we are.
This last comment that Eugenia just made is super influenced by social consciousness. Social consciousness is the energy, it's the conglomerated energy of the rejection of the not enough self that is done by everybody in the world that is doing that. Okay, then it gloms together and becomes this big, huge, not enough self that if you just, get up one day and walk outside your door and you start to feel awful and depressed and everything, you're probably tuning into a lot of this social consciousness energy, which is immersed in the mode of victim.
Yeah, in a victim mode, we don't get what we want. So that feeling of, I wanted to get this, it didn't happen, something else happened instead, so now I'm a victim, that means that some of our own authority got projected outwards if we see the event as if it happened to us. Nothing actually ever happens to us. It's a self-created setup in order for us to learn. It's just what part of us has set it up. Usually it's not the ego part. So it seems to the ego self, to the conscious personality part, that it happened to it. But it's still a component of the self that set it up. It could be the higher self or the soul component, or it could be even the lower self, our fears and our negative desires that set something in motion. So then we have attracted the circumstance that does not look like what we wanted. And we say, okay, I'm a victim of this event because this is completely, I didn't put it there, somebody else did it to me, which actually is a very good representation that we're in a victim mode. So now we're going to be talking about how to be able to fix this, how to be able to, after we notice we're in a victim mode, to shift ourselves back into the sense of balanced self.
This is the victim mode repair kit. And the most important tool in this kit is excitement. So excitement is about anticipation of learning something new. Excitement doesn't mean that you have to be super happy or energized about what you're going through. It just means that you can anticipate learning something. And also another tool in this kit is non-attachment. So in order to be able to embody non-attachment, you'd have to be noticing that you do have a preference for the outcome that you would like to achieve, but that it's not a demand. A demand puts too much of a tight boundary around the expectation of the outcome, and then if you're starting to figure out you're not getting your expected outcome, then that demand energy acts like a noose, like a hangman's noose around the neck of the outcome. So if you have a preference for the outcome, but you don't demand that it be a certain way, then you have a lot more of the next quality in the toolkit, which is safety.
Yeah, and safety connects to being able to know that you are okay in every moment, no matter what. If you get what you'd like to get, or if you don't. If you feel a certain way, or if you don't. There's something in there that's outside of all this experiential component that is the core part of us that is okay no matter what. It cannot be destroyed, it cannot be harmed, nothing could ever happen to it. It's a piece of the soul energy from the source into us. So if we can kind of connect to that, energetically it connects to the energy of the root chakra, just like the tree has the root, we get that root downwards to ground ourselves. If we connect to that in whatever disaster that could be going on in our lives circumstantially, we just root ourselves like an anchor on a boat and we know that we're okay. That helps tremendously to get us out of the victim mode.
And another tool is gratitude. What gratitude does is it creates an anchor point based on love. So the love energy comes through the heart. You anchor through love, and that allows you to have gratitude for whatever you're going through. And the last one would be curiosity. And curiosity is an openness to the creativity of the moment. When you're being squished by the victim mode, it's really hard to have a creative thought or feeling about what to do with the problem. But if you go into curiosity about the event, why are you in the victim mode? What does it feel like? Have you been in it before? Is it your favorite victim mode? Is this a new victim mode? All of these things would lend to the opening within you in the second chakra and the third with curiosity.
Yeah. So if you like this information and find out more on the subject or other subjects, you can visit our website, which is www.energypulsesource.com. There's all sorts of material there, including downloadable workshops, so you can practice at home.
Also, you can get this book. It's called Mission Alpha, The Wise and Passionate You.
Yeah. You can get it on our website, or you can get it on Amazon by typing in my name, Eugenia Oganova. The material that we teach is in this book in a compressed format.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.